Hello,
Hey, man.
hello, hello.
Oh,
What's up, dude? How you doing?
yeah.
Doing good.
Hell yeah, me too. Dude, we're all doing good. We're getting some StarCraft ready to go. Uh,
Yeah, man. You all provisioned up. You got yogurt. You got bananas. Are you ready?
I got nothing, but I'm okay. I'm like a camel. I can last for days. All right, man. Go ahead and I guess just give me a quick rundown of league race and general playstyle.
Yeah, sure. So right now playing Protoss, and that's pretty much all I play. And sitting at like 2900 MR, so like plat 2-3 range. Let's see. Kind of recently learned stuff. So I've done your B2GM. So kind of got the probe scouting to a decent spot. Got the Sentry Scout going now, and the build I usually do Nexus into Cybercore, one gateway, unless I'm playing Protoss. If I go Protoss, I usually play two gateways and try and punish them if they only go one. I'm kind of finding that I like the aggro style, so starting to work on the Adept harass, just because I like that a lot.
Okay.
Um, and one thing I've been struggling with, or a few things I'm struggling with, are like third base timing, like when to go into that. I still don't have like great unit control over hotkeys and stuff like that, and my mid game's generally pretty weak. Like I was using SC2 replay stats, and like my mid game has something like a 20 or 25% win rate. And so you see, like early's good, late's pretty good, but that mid is terrible.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so and I think some of it is like some race troubles too. So like when Terrans drop Widow Mines in like the 4 to 430 mark, that usually beats me up pretty bad. And if I go out to grab some creep tumors from Zerg, I'll get surrounded at times, and so I don't have like I'm never good at retreat on that.
Okay.
Or I'll see like Golden Wall Swarm Host is also annoying to deal with.
Yeah. I can imagine. Map is ridiculous. All right. Do you have a matchup in mind you want to focus on today, or do you want to kind of focus on a few things?
A few things. So a couple different reviews. We can kind of start wherever you want. I got a Zekis special here. So we've got the depths into Sky Toss
Okay.
a bit. We've got how to fight badly on a ramp, which was not a good game. We've got the
Uh,
Swarm Host Golden Wall example. And we've got a BC that just like popped in, and I didn't know how to scout it because they had turrets and stuff up, so I could never get in there.
okay. Well, I would say, um, honestly, generally speaking, a lot of these things that you're probably gonna run into, if I watch one of your games, I probably, even though it's just like if it's like one example of one type of thing, it'll probably solve a lot of your problems for a lot of things. If I see things in your build that look really messed up, that's like the easiest way to fix a lot of your problems. But after that, I mean, if we definitely look at some of the other ones too, like get more specific defenses. Like for instance, I would say we could probably skip the Golden Wall one because this is all you gotta do right here. This is it. This is the key to the kingdom. Just make Colossus. If you just make
Okay,
Colossus,
all right.
it's like insane. Like you're like, oh wow, he landed a bunch of locusts at me, and you just like as soon as they land, you kite, and you just have like Colossus like as they kite backwards. If you get to a point where you have like 4 or 5 of them, you just win the game. As long as you can like not let them just kill your base, and you're always like, shit, I'm way over here, and he's way over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other ones are a little more specific, I guess, depending on what's going on in the game. But yeah, Swarmos get destroyed by Colossus.
Okay. And I have a weird request, but I like
Sure.
to do this when I'm coaching stuff for mentoring, which is okay. Here's the good way, and here's an even worse way than what you're doing now, so that way you can avoid making an even worse mistake.
Yeah, that sounds good. I could definitely. I'm definitely gonna be very critical on what you do as well. What I think you're doing that is like not correct, and I'll be like, hey, you're making your life way harder in this way, and we'll figure out, what you should do instead.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Did any of those sound like a good starting point? Do you want to start with the good game, the bad game, like the scouting?
Whatever you're in the mood for, honestly. I'm gonna no matter what game we look at, I'm definitely gonna look at like whether you win or lose. If it's a good or bad game for you, I'm gonna look at how you play though, like how your efficiency and how you play, and I'll definitely critique that a lot. But yeah, whatever you want to start on. And if you don't, I don't know if you've seen a coaching lesson before with how I have people just message me, but just if you know how to do it, just grab me through the GM list, and if you don't know how to do it, I can just tell you how to do it really fast.
Yeah. What rank are you right now?
I am rank 94.
94. Gotcha.
And I would say the whole other thing you told me about, where you go, like to go adepts, like opener with harass and shit like that against Zerg into Stargate. I don't think that's bad for a platinum player. Like if your goal is definitely to like constantly seek improvement, because I do think you could start handling that once you're in Diamond. So if you want to start preparing for it a little bit before Diamond, I'm not going to be like that's the worst thing ever. But if I'm looking at your macro in these games, and if I see things that look massively inefficient, making the game way more complicated than it has to be will just make it harder for you. It'll take longer to improve, basically.
Yeah, well, that's probably something I should throw in there. Is like I'm playing the game for fun because I think I could probably sit on the B2GM and like get a higher rank than screwing around with the depths and doing other stuff right now.
All right. Sounds good. I'll definitely try and help you figure out as much as you can about how to make what you're doing better.
Cool. All right.
But yeah, whatever one you want to. Yeah, I was gonna say whatever one you want to start with. I don't mind. And then just make me lobby host, and we'll be good to go.
Done.
All right, and also I always tell people this, but I feel like just in case you haven't ever heard me say this, I want you to feel very comfortable. And if you ever want to say something while I'm talking, feel free to interrupt me. It doesn't actually bother me at all. I just want you to make sure you get as many questions out as you feel the need to get out. So don't feel like you have to wait and then lose your train of thought if you're wanting to ask something.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, so one thing that I've also started to do just because there's nothing else to do in the beginning of the game is starting to think about like, okay, mineral stacking.
Yeah, no, it's huge. Like the reason why I tell people to do it so much, why it's such a important thing. I mean, it does give you extra money, which is obviously why I want you to do it. But there's like nothing happening right now. There's like no reason to not do it. Otherwise, all you're doing is just staring at your Nexus. And you're like, all right, just waiting for like the next 2 minutes. I'm just gonna fucking sit here. All right. Here's a small tip. This is actually something that's kind of nice. This is something that I sometimes will fuck up myself. But just know this is actually a real thing. You should always place your first gateway against the outside wall instead of the inside wall. And the reason why is because if your opponent all-ins you, especially with something with sentries, it's way easier to not get fucked over repeatedly if you're getting all in, because your units don't have to cross on the outside and then possibly get force fielded. They can cross on the inside, and it's more like defensible.
So they have to come deeper to make that happen.
Exactly, yeah. It gives you the advantage a little bit more. So, yeah. And also, it just makes, like, your units travel between the main and natural a little bit faster. If it's also something like, let's say...
oh, yeah, you block the probes out. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Like, it just helps. Okay, that probe... Already, that probe that's coming to your base, that feels like a cannon rush. Like, that probe is fucking fast.
Yeah.
So if I were you right now, what I would do, if you noticed it... Okay, good, you are. I was going to say you should totally scout that. I'm glad you did. That's very good that you did that. Okay. This is another thing that's scary too, okay? So I think you did the right thing by moving your probe back. But the thing I think you did that was really risky is you allowed your gas to be touched by his probe. That's not being built yet. If you ever see a probe come in your base, no matter what, always just take, like, fuck your build. Take the gas. Because yeah,
that was like a red alert moment.
Yeah.
Oh god, get back!
Yeah. Like if you ever go, like if you're going double gate opener in PvP, and if your build is like one gate expand, which I still think is okay in platinum, but once you get to diamond, you can't really do that anymore as much. Just for standard play. But for now, if you are gonna go for one gate expand, I don't mind it. But yeah, if you do plan on going double gate expand or like double gate into core and then expanding, that gas being riskier there is really scary for you. I'm glad you built it, but definitely should have built it with like another probe off the middle line, just to be safe. Oh, that wall's fucked up now. His probe.
Well, I was planning to put the core furthest away, so it would only have the one.
Oh wait. You put the core on the left side of the gate, so you do triple building?
I'm not consistent with how I build this, so like you saying start on the outside and move in is good.
Okay, so
yes, I do triple building.
So okay, stop doing that in the first place. Like, so let me just explain that really fast, because if that's something you do normally, this is not great, and I'll tell you why. If you go triple building and it makes the wall have this one little doorway gap, a 1 pixel gap in the doorway is not great in general for PvP, because if your style does turn into like Charge the Archon Immortal, Archons can't go through your door anymore. So eventually what's going to happen is if you ever, for whatever reason, need to go, if you recall into your main base, or if you need to defend your main base and Archons happen to be there, and you have like a bunch of charge lots in your main from a Warp Prism, from your opponent, or something like that, you need to be able to have a 2-pixel doorway, which is basically the size of a pylon, to be able to fit Archons in and out of your base. And there's no advantage.
Makes sense.
Yeah, there's also no advantage of having a 1-pixel doorway to a 2-pixel doorway, because like having a zealot, like for instance, standing in the doorway, like you would against Zerg or something, or like a stalker standing in the doorway, doesn't do anything to adepts because he can shade right through you. So having a 1-pixel or a 2-pixel, either one of them is fine for the purpose of a pylon block. But I think the way your shit's set up is you have to I don't even know if one pylon would block this. I can't tell if the pylon and the gateway would be lined up. It looks like the pylon's maybe to the right by 1. So you could actually block it if you put a pylon to the bottom right of the first pylon, or a shield battery rather, to like lock out the adepts from coming in. But what you should do is you should just build your first building like you did. The first gateway is perfectly placed. I just think it should be on the other side of the ramp to make your life easier for defending shit. And then you line up the second gateway off the first gateway, and you move it. Like, you would actually put the second gateway exactly where the first gateway is on the opposite side, but then you drag your mouse up by like 2 pixels, if that makes sense. Like 2 grid spots.
Okay, so what I'll end up doing is I'll just go back to like one of your B2GM replays and watch how you do that, because I'm assuming that you do this in your stuff, so
Yeah,
I can see the exact position.
And if you look at the VOD, okay, you might not see it right now because you might not be looking at my stream, but if you come back and watch this VOD, I'm gonna make green boxes really fast. It'll be like 2 seconds. Okay, so your first gateway is like perfectly placed. Your second gateway should be placed immediately like this, but then that's not obviously where I want you to put it. You shift it to the right by 2 pixels. It would be, instead of there, it would be like, so that's where it should be, or that's where it's initially, you know, how you'd line it up, but then you move it to the right 1, and then to the right 2, so it should be like that. Like, it should be almost stacked on top of the, like, kind of where it is right now, but it should be down literally 1 more. It should be touching the gateway. It should be connected. So the positioning to the right you placed it was perfect, but it should be connected to the other gateway. So that the only doorway that is available now is right there, which is a 2x2 pylon spot, or a shield battery, which are both the same size. And then if you ever get attacked by like your opponent's adepts, if you leave a probe sitting right above that where that pylon should be placed, and adept shades are like coming towards your ramp, you immediately throw down a pylon or a battery, and it makes a full wall then until you cancel that battery or pylon. And it makes your life easy as fuck. It makes basically stalker openers OP as fuck. And I know you said you like to go adepts sometimes. I don't know if you go adepts in PvP, but or what are you gonna say?
So I usually do it situationally. So if I go and scout them and I see they are cybernetics core 1 gateway, I'm like, okay, adepts, we're going in.
Sure, that's honestly that's a fine response. I think that's fine. That's actually here's the thing though. If your opponent walls like that though, you're not gonna really get into his base as much as you'd like. You'll never get in, and if he makes it like a battery and a couple stalkers chronoed out of that 1 gate, he can still defend his natural too. But in general, I don't think that's a bad response. I would say most of all that response would be paired the best with like a Stargate, but I don't think you should be doing double adept Stargate openers in Platinum as much. I mean, if you do it, we can help you with it, but that's fucking rough. It's hard to
Again, I'm just doing it for fun, so
no,
like,
I know.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough. Well, I mean, I won't try to stress any too hard about like having to play perfect. Right.
Yeah, so Chrono the Zealot, because I'm like, this pylon's annoying. If he keeps this here, I don't want him to block me.
Okay, so your wall is actually you fixed it with the core. It's a little awkward though. I'm not gonna lie, like it seems a little weird. Because the reason why this is the weirdest wall that you could possibly have. And I'll tell you like the weakness it has. The amount of surface area you give your opponent now by having a doorway that now gets blocked off by the core on the inside. If all you did was you just lowered the gateway by 1, it removes this problem. But since you have the gateway raised by 1 above the other gateway, you now have a surface area on this bottom gateway. If you did get all in by, let's say, like proxy gates, it was like 4 proxy gate zealots or some shit like that.
Oh yeah, by the north and west.
There could be like 8 zealots lined up on this bottom gateway now, and that would kill that gateway so fucking fast. So your wall would never like you would already have zealots lining up on this gateway already, and because that's how fast they would come, because they come before the core is even done. Your wall would totally die.
Got it.
Alright, so he double gated at the front of his base. He scouted. If you ever see someone wall like this, it's really easy to abuse them by just going stalkers now. Because you can kill, if you want to, because you can just kill their wall. It's ridiculously hard to defend this because he has no surface area. If you abuse the fact that you can have your stalkers always shooting him as he tries to come out the door, it always gives you a first free shot.
Yeah, so then I assume the only thing you can do is like drop a battery in there.
Honestly,
if
like,
he's trying to defend that.
Yeah, like you have to drop a battery, but it's really hard because the gateways, you can just shoot the gateways all day now. If you see this, if you were to go stalker, you can shoot the gateways all fucking day, and then your stalkers are already concaved out in the max range of his gateways, and the only way for him to shoot you is for him to walk out of his door, which means he can't have all of his stalkers shooting at once because that's not how the range in this game works. Like his stalkers would all have to walk out the door, and then you would shoot him with, like, let's say you have like 6 stalkers out there, and he has 6 stalkers as well. His first stalker would take a full volley of all 6 of yours as he walks out the door, and then he would shoot a second time before his back stalker, number 6, is even out the door yet. You would like kill a stalker before he even has a concave ready to fight you back.
Yeah, this is, so exactly. So I guess when I'm playing Terran, I intentionally don't do this because you essentially give yourself a choke point, and then all the Marines just wreck you.
Yeah, like okay, I would say this: walling like this against Terran is actually okay. Walling like this against Zerg is okay, but walling against this like Protoss is not okay. And the reason why this is because stalkers can get out of hand really fast. So you don't want to ever do this in PvP. Like it's scary as fuck. But in PvP,
so why is the Terran okay?
Because of Hellions. Because so Hellions can come just as fast as stalkers do, and Hellions are never going to kill your wall. They're never going to kill the buildings, but they are a problem though if they kill your probes. And having like one stalker there to like literally just make a wall so your stalker can just keep shooting the Hellions, especially if it's backed up by like a shield battery, that's never going to break either. But Marines, the reason why they're not a problem is because if Marines came at you this fast, they would not have combat shield, they would not have stim pack, and they would not have medevacs. They would actually be really easy to deal with. You could just kite them with stalkers, and you don't really need a wall. I mean, it would. Sorry, what I'm saying is the fact that you have a wall or don't have a wall wouldn't matter because stalkers are going to overpower Marines early on anyways. And by the time Marines do have support of something else, like for instance medevacs or whatever, and they have stim and all that shit, you should already have some type of AoE if you're going for a
Colossus
defensive
or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Marines are kind of irrelevant here.
Got it.
And I would also say, I mean, just in general, I think making a zealot in PvP, I would recommend never doing that. It's honestly a big waste of your unit, like your time.
So if he finishes that pylon, do you just go to your third and make your second nexus there? Because he pylon blocked my natural.
Did you kill the pylon? I was looking at your units.
I made the zealot to kill it reactionary, and then he dropped it at like a second.
Yeah. Just I would say definitely just take your third. Yeah, fuck it.
Okay.
Like if he is gonna let that pylon finish, that is such a deviation to his build. Like I would say that this would be my opinion. Okay, if he actually makes a pylon there and he lets that shit finish, I would say I would prefer you to open up stalker to kill it. But you don't have to like kill it and then take your third, or sorry, you don't have to kill it and then take your natural. I mean, you totally could do that though. That's not something that's not viable because taking your natural after you would kill a pylon with stalkers is not actually a very late natural. Like basically your natural should be started after your third pylon and after you start 2 units in the gateways. So if you start your natural like before that, if you're like making all these gateway core and then you make natural before pylon or before your units at all, it's a bit early, it's a bit risky. Yeah, you can either kill the pylon or you can just move past it and build it somewhere else. Build the natural at your third. Either way would work, but yeah, definitely don't build a zealot. And don't ever build a zealot unless... The only time I'd ever justify building a zealot is if you were getting cannon rushed or if you were getting proxy gated by zealots and you felt the need to make a zealot for whatever reason at that point in time to like try to hold it if you're gonna like pull probes with it or something.
Yeah, it's funny because yesterday or the day before, like I had a cannon rush and I didn't make the zealot and the probe just walked up my ramp for vision and like it was bad.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways we can talk about cannon rush too. There's like different variations of how you can defend cannon rush, but if you want to, we can.
I've heard you talk about the econ, the gateway, the robo.
What I really like right now, and this is from the just like experience of what I've done. I fucking love wall offs against cannon rushes. You lock the probes out of your base and you just make stalkers. It's ridiculously easy to defend it if you do that. Because once you get to a point where you have like 3-4 stalkers, you can actually shut that shit down so easy. Alright, so We'll speed it
We can
up.
see past this. We already looked at this.
Yeah. You did miss an opportunity here to kill an adept with your adepts for a moment. Like so far that was good micro. And then you shaded, and he did not shade. And right here, you actually, honestly, you could have killed both of his adepts. And this could have potentially ended the game right now. If you just A-moved, if you were paying attention to your shades and you A-moved it, this would have killed the first adept easy, and then the second adept would have died in 2 hits behind it. But your first adept kind of just runs, and you let him get back to the battery, which means you won't kill it now. And then he actually kills your adept.
Yeah.
Like that could have, I'm not even kidding, you could have won the game right there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's why when it comes to like the micro, you really want to, you want to definitely keep tabs on your units for that regard. Like, for instance, the best thing I think you could have done is like at a key moment, like right here. So you already have, you have the natural already started, which is great. Your main base is already fully saturated, which is great. I would say maybe fix that one gas pylon, which is not a huge deal right now so far because your natural's not even done yet. But all you'd have to do right now is literally, and I'm also glad the way you hockey your shit. I would say this. Okay, this is what I would say. Actually, I have a question for you before I say this. Do you ever put your Nexus in the same control group, or do you always leave them in opposite control groups?
So typically what I do is have both on 5, but
Okay.
I fat fingered it, so I got a 5 and a 6.
Okay, so you normally should be on 5 then.
Yep.
Okay. So I mean that's fine then. Ideally, all you would do here is you would go like this. Don't rally to his base ever like this. Never, ever, 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 ever do that. Never do that. Just rally your Nexus to the front of your natural, because you're opening yourself up to a lot of messy shit to happen to you where you're like, your units misrally to death. So I would say open up double adept like you did. That's fine. Stop going adepts though after this, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't pair a constant adept pressure with a fast Stargate, it's never going to win games. Like you're going to start getting to a point where you're going to lose all the time, and you're going to be like, this sucks. Like adepts just, because like you don't want to continuously put yourself in that hole where if your opponent, the reason why this is important is because if your opponent's going to take damage from the first 2 adepts, they're going to take damage from the first 2 adepts. But if they don't take damage from the first 2 adepts, it's very unlikely that they're suddenly going to take damage from adepts 3 and 4 or 5 and 6 or 7 and 8. So what I would recommend you do, if you want to open adepts like this, is focus really hard on the first 2 adepts to kill as many probes as possible. And if you ever have an opportunity like this game specifically where he just allows you to fuck his units up, that'd be great too. But you just rally your gates to the front of your Nexus as you push with adepts, and you make stalkers. And then you rally your Nexus. As soon as you build the Nexus at your natural, you should be pretty much fully saturated at the main. You rally both Nexus to your natural mineral line. And then you just literally cycle in 5 probe, 4 stalker, micro my adepts. And you just stare at the adepts the whole time, but you periodically cycle in the macro of 4 and 5 while you're attacking with adepts. So you should never actually look at your base when you're using these 2 adepts. Really, like if you do look at the base, it's very brief. Like you could double tap 5, for instance. It goes back to the main. You quickly green box a probe, go build pylon, shift click the mineral line, and then double tap your adept control group again, which I don't see you have one right now. You should definitely have one.
It'll probably be 1 here in a second.
Okay, there it is. Yeah. So you actually have I think a probe in there too, but then that might fuck up your camera.
There it is.
Is that on purpose?
Not to have now. I saw I shift 1 instead of control 1 there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what I figured you did. I just want to make sure you're not doing it on purpose, and the reason why that's important is because if you have a probe in your control group now, that's literally in your main base, it kind of fucks up your camera pathing, where now if you double tap 1, it's not guaranteed that it's always going to go to your adepts. Like, it usually goes to the bulk, so it probably will, but if you do this kind of shit too often, or, you know, if you have units on both sides of the map and you double tap the hockey, it's just not guaranteed that it's going to actually go to where you want the camera to go, and, you know, shit like that can cost you engagements, basically.
Yeah, my mechanical skill is like super low, so usually I try and focus on like bigger decisions because I fat finger stuff all the time.
Well, I would
Yeah.
I would critique you very hard just by saying that, because you want to play mechanically challenging builds, but you want to have fun. And I won't go into it too deep. But yeah, what you should definitely be doing here is killing probes for sure. So ideally, focus fire probes. Like the fact that second adept, the fact that you didn't focus fire his adepts or shade, missed opportunity. But I'm glad you're at least killing probes with this adept. But the 2 adepts is definitely the marker you want to hit, because you can always one-shot the probes with that, which is insane. And then, yeah, you're making probes. Yeah, unfortunately, the natural Nexus is not making probes, though, because it wasn't hockeyed with it.
Yeah.
And now you're making Stalkers now. And you do follow it up with a Stargate and a Void. You like your Voids, huh?
Well, speaking of micro, I don't have to turn anything on and off. I just send them out there. They're good.
Okay.
No, I know the oracles would kill it faster, but
Well,
if you go for the mid line.
I'll give you some ideas, okay? So if you want to play, if like, how attached are you to this style right now? Just throw that out there really fast. Do you want to keep doing this?
Dude, I'm not. So like I said, I'll play this. I'll play like 3-gate Robo against somebody that has one. I'll play like B to GM. Like I'm not attached to any style.
Okay. Because I would say that going double gate Stalker now makes sense for a follow up to the Adepts for defensive purposes. The Voids though, I would say they're very questionable. They scale kind of poorly. It's just awkward to make the Voids. Like honestly, the fact that you made a Stargate, if you just play defensive now, there's better options. I would say that a better option you could take here would be like you said, like a Robo.
So this is not going to be a defensive game. Like if you keep going here.
If it's not a defensive game, then I disagree with the Stalkers.
Okay. Okay.
Because okay, so I'm trying to think of a build I would like you to possibly think about here.
I'd rather focus on decisions than like specific build.
Well, like well, that's what I mean. Like the decision of what you're doing, because you have to. Yeah, this is what I'm trying to explain. Your unit choice changes how you should play the game. It's not like every single unit in the game can play every way efficiently. Because if you, for instance, if you play Stalker now and you play aggressive after you've kind of missed the opportunity to be aggressive entirely, and you pair that with Voids, your Stalker pressure is going to feel like shit. Like it's going to feel weak. Because if, for instance, if you play this multi-prong now, where the Void goes into the base and your Stalkers sit in front of, like they have pushed the front door.
That's exactly what's about to happen.
Yeah, like your Void should get shit on, and your Stalkers now have weaker situations they should be in. Because it's naked Stalker by themselves. They don't have upgrades, and they also don't have supportive units. And Stalkers go well with those things. The only way Stalkers are self-sufficient is when you go mass economy, like really fast, and you go blink, and you literally just mass Stalkers with like blink only. That's it. So he shades into your base, and he starts killing your probes. Let's see what your Void does. I mean, I know your mineral line's getting totally fucked up, but what does your Void accomplish here? You kill 3 probes so far, and then your Void's gonna die now. Well, it flies away, which is nice. But, like, for instance, the Void, if you go Void, it makes more sense to make more of them, and it makes more sense to also use it as a stepping stone. Like, Voids into, like, going, like, lots of Voids into something like Skytoss, for instance, would make more sense. But that also requires you to whittle down his economy as much as possible. So I would say that would pair better with Adepts and for the opener of the game, because you could then fall back on defensive battery Void with, if your opponent just decides to counter on you, and if he does it off of a low economy because you've killed a lot of his economy, that'd be great. But here's the thing that's really, really important, and it's very true in this game, and there's honestly nothing I can say that's going to change this fact. If your opponent does not take damage from Adepts, the only way Voids become useful now is if you actually harass with them and you don't ever lose them, which is very hard to do that with Voids, because Voids are not the best unit. It's rough. It's a rough life. So the build of Stalker Void is a difficult one, and I mean, you're being aggressive now, and you've pulled him. Like, I would say this, okay? Logically, it makes sense to attack him now, and here's why. You just fucking killed all of his Adepts because he tried to kill your probes, and he sacked all of his Adepts to do this. If you think about this, you both opened double gate at the start of the game, and he lost literally 2 rounds of his gateways just now, and you have not lost those units. You lost your first 2 Adepts, which, yeah, they died. He did not lose his Adepts during that process. He followed that up with 4 Adepts that died after, so ultimately what happened at the end of that trade between both of you, if you're both making units ideally efficiently paced, is he lost 4, you lost 2, so you're 1 gateway round ahead of him, and you made pure Stalker. That is totally fine now. And also the fact that his wall is in the front like this is totally fine now to abuse the fact that you might be able to pressure him. It makes sense.
Speaking of 6 Stalkers.
Yeah, like it's like it makes it makes a lot of sense like to push now because I mean you have the advantage here. You should.
So I did it because I was taking the third and I wanted pressure so that could finish.
Okay, so that makes no
And
sense. That makes no sense. It makes like if you actually push because you take a third, that's actually the wrong idea. That is the worst time to push. It's because
you want to
go.
I was just gonna say because you need to defend it in case he's somewhere else on the map coming in, or like.
It's because you have less units. Like if you're gonna push, and for instance, your opponent's two basing you, and if you invest into a third base and then you go now it's time to attack. Not only do you give your opponent defender advantage, but if he invested into more production than you did, he's gonna have a bigger army than you at that point in time. And the third advantage for you is when the third kicks in and allows you to have more money than him in the future, so that you can then make more production than he has because you have more money to support even more shit later on. But going into like a 600 mineral investment at your third right now, which is the Nexus double pylon, if he just made 2 extra gates and more units out of those gates, and now let's say you're on 2 gate and you're pushing into like 4 or 5 gate, you're going to die. Like it's not the right time to push. But it made sense to push because you just killed his adepts. So don't ever expand and then push as well at the same time. Like that actually makes you should be the one defending instead. And if you do want to attack him, it's harassment, not full-on push with your army. If you have
that's probably one of my biggest mistakes. Then I think you just like because I do this a lot.
Yeah, don't do that. It's literally just giving yourself ways to throw the game away repeatedly because that's like saying it's like all it is. It's like saying is the best chance you have at defending it all in when you're playing a macro build is if you defend yourself with your SimCity. So your buildings take some of the damage. It creates less surface area for your opponent, and you have also the ability to just reinforce very fast through robos or stargates or just straight up warpins at your base, and you also have the ability to use shield battery. But if you take all those advantages away from you, and then you just push with naked units on the map like how they are in front of his base, if you had not killed those 4 adepts right now you have 6 stalkers, and well, at his base you have 6. You have 2 more at your main base in the mineral line, but you have 6 stalkers pushing him, and he just lost 4 adepts. Now, if he didn't even lose these 4 adepts, and just know this too, if I hit play for a second, watch this. Now he's got 3 zealots too. Imagine if you did not kill those 4 adepts, and now he would have had 3 zealot, 5 adept, 6 stalker versus just your 6 stalker. That is like twice your supply, or even more than twice your supply over here. That would be potentially overpowered. And what if, for instance, his first tech choice, because you haven't actually scouted what his tech is at all yet. What if his first tech choice was blink stalkers, and he went nothing but stalkers after those 4 adepts, and now he had like 10 stalkers or whatever, or 12 stalkers. Let's just say he went stalkers, all right, and you push like this.
It's game ending.
Yeah, he just blinks on you when you die. So don't ever push if you expand like this. That is not the trigger to push. All right. So I do. I'm just gonna let you know. I do really want to tell you about your macro. It's making my. I have internal needs to tell people this. But I mean, we can keep talking about your decision making. But I'm gonna say right now, your macro is definitely falling apart. Because the reason why is because you do have a fast third, but I do think if you just utilized your natural a little bit more diligently. Like, I'm not even just talking about the fact that the probes are sitting here, but I do think you're under par on probe production as well. And it's because you're playing a very aggressive game. Your supply and your probe rate and all this shit right now is very under par for where it should be at right now if you were macroing efficiently. That is a big problem that is going to create problems for you always in the future. And in terms of winning games, it's going to make it harder. But in general, logically speaking, you should definitely be backing up with your stalkers right now because this is not the right time to attack. And you actually, all that you've really accomplished so far in this fight was, I think you killed a zealot and you weakened the gateways, shields only. You haven't done any real damage to them, but then you also lost a stalker. So this was ultimately a failed attack so far. But if you pull him back out of his base like this, if you actually make him chase you, you know where his army is. This is the time to use the void ray you tucked away in top left and now use that in the middle line. Because you pull, like, the way you want to abuse people with positioning and pathing is you pull them and you peel them apart. You don't just attack blindly unless you plan on retreating with the army you attack blindly with. So if you wanted to poke, for instance, if you poked his gateways while taking a third, I would say ideally Attacking his front base made no sense because you took a third. For that reason we already explained. However, in this game specifically, because not only did you tuck a Void Ray in the top left, and also you killed those 4 Adepts in your natural, that gives you a little bit of an advantage at that point in the game, and it allows you to get away with doing something like taking a third and also attacking his base. I agree.
So I think.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so I think you've pointed out a lot of good stuff in the early game that I need to fix that it's gonna help like later on in the game, right? This is a longer replay, so I think probably after this tip here, maybe if we watch and then you like point out more of the unforgivable stuff, like the macro play at my natural, right? Like you're like, man, this is a really big problem.
I'm trying to help you, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I've already seen so many unforgivable things that you've done. I'm not lying. Like I feel like I've seen you lose this game like 5 times already with the way your build is, and I want to tell you that, but I don't know if you want me to tell you that.
That's fine. No, that's yeah, man, that's good.
Because you have like your build is way off. It makes no sense for winning games, honestly. Like going Adept pressure, also I think is not great because the reason why is like you managed to kill I think what like 3 probes with your Adept when you got across the map the first time, or like 4 probes the first time, or
yeah,
I don't know.
Few. Yep.
And you missed a beat hardcore on using those Adepts, and then your macro suffered because of that, like mechanically, because like your Nexus weren't even making probes for a long time, and you followed it up with Stalker. And following up Adepts with Stalker is not bad, but following up Adepts with Stalker with Voids is definitely not a good build. It puts you, like, the Void is definitely, it'd be like saying, if I can use a grenade to go blow something up, I'm instead going to use, like, a little fucking firework instead. Like, it's, or, you know, that's a shitty analogy, but I think you'll get what I mean. Like, it's just a shitty tool for the same job you're trying to make it accomplish, which is quickly killing mineral lines. Oracle would be much more useful here in that regard. And then you're fast third with 2-gate Stargate. The fact that you don't constantly pump out of 2-gate Stargate and you go for a third this fast, you're opening yourself up to dying so many times. Like you have, like if you're gonna go double gate economy, if you go for a third base off of just 2-gate and a Stargate, it is completely unacceptable to ever have idle time in these buildings. The only way it will ever go ahead, you go.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, right? Because the problem I was trying to fix here is like I completely overcompensated, because like I'll end up with like a saturated second, and then I'll go scout, and I'm like, oh god, he's saturated his third. I was way off on my third, so like I totally missed the mark on usually getting my third up. So then it's like extreme one side or the other here. What's the good trigger to be like, okay, it's ready to go to the third, and I can defend this?
So the what you should be doing is this all based off of constantly pumping units. You cannot have idle time in your buildings, because then what happens is it creates a bank for you that's artificial and it's not real, because it's not actually something you can maintain. It'd be like saying you win like $10,000 at once and you go spend $10,000 at once for bills that you have to pay that you can't actually afford anymore. Like you have to have a good economy to be able to take your thirds. So what you want to do is you need to take a main and a natural and constantly pump out of them, and once you actually have a fully saturated natural, that is the trigger to take your third. And that is also, you can do this with barely enough money while maintaining full production out of your 3 tech building, or 3 buildings, one being your tech building, so double gateway Stargate or double gateway Robo or whatever. You need to be constantly pumping. If you ever have idle time, either in the Nexus or in the gateway, and you let bank develop that you then spend on more production or more bases, it's vulnerable, because you don't have either enough units to defend yourself because you haven't been making shit for a while, or if you build production instead of this, if you were to have built like more gates instead of this Nexus, you're gonna have even more idle time in all of your buildings, because you can't actually sustain more than like 1 round of it. Like the first round, you'll be able to spend a full round of like, let's say 6 gates, all get spin at once, but then you'll be able to only uptime like 2 or 3 gates at a time, and the other 2 or 3 gates will always be down unless you just neglect it for a full minute at a time, and then yeah, you can do 6 gate warpins at once. But that's not good macro. So downtime is your worst enemy. That's everybody's worst enemy in this game, is idle downtime. And that's going to happen to you more often the more aggressive you are before you can actually do a build without even thinking about it. That is a fact.
Yeah. Yep. Can't kill stuff with money. Need units.
Yeah,
need
man.
Stuff.
And you'll make money even slower. Like, see how your Nexus are down again? This happens a lot. And it's because you're being so aggressive with like these voids and shit. So it's gonna keep happening. It's going to make your life harder. And I'm trying to help you as much as I can with making you have fun. But if you want to win, this is you're like, I'm just watching you make your life really hard here, dude. So. Right now, let me speak to you logically about how you should have attacked here again. You pull him out of his base. You run away. You know where his army is. This right now, as you run away, and he leaves his door. This is a door, so his units would go back into it really fucking slow. This is the perfect time to send your Void Ray in right now into his main mineral line, because you know he's not there defending it because he's currently defending his natural. So you pull him out, and if your Void goes into the mineral line now, if it's like approaching the mineral line and he chases you all the way out of his door, your Void Ray arrives like right now, gets into his mineral line, you start killing probes. Either he doesn't realize it's happening because currently he's fixated on our stalkers and he's like, I gotta kill the stalkers. He looks back and suddenly 8 probes have died to the Void Ray already, and you're like, oh cool, I just won the game because all his probes are dead. And like his probes are still dying in the main mineral line. That is gonna happen a lot of the time if you actually do this properly timed. Like if you do it, like if you're expecting this to be your plan before it even happens, because you know he can't defend it because all of his units are here. That is one way it'll go. Another way it goes is the second he turns around, and let's say he sees it right away. He pulls the probe away from the mineral line. You still make him lose mining time in that situation. He runs back with his stalkers and zealots and all that shit. His army goes back to defend his main base. As he leaves, you reapproach the front door with your stalkers, and you pick off a gate, or pick off the core, or pick something off that's like a free kill. Don't run into the mineral line of his natural as well, and like your unit's stuck in there. But just
hey, there's the bad idea. Yes.
Yeah, because if you do that, all he has to do is warp in like a stalker in the doorway again, and you're stuck forever, and you die. Or he probes surround you or whatever. But if you just do guaranteed shaving, like you don't want to. Basically, the thing I'm trying to say is, when you actually fight your opponent, you don't expect to just kill them with your first attack. If you're doing shit like taking a third base, you're not all in, so don't play like you're all in. You're macroing, and what you want to do is shave pieces of your opponent off repeatedly, so you gain leads to where it'll put your opponent into the point where he has to all in you, and it will not work because you have superior everything. You have better economy, you have more units, you have more production. It's physically impossible for him to catch you in any aspect because you just have more of everything. And
so we were talking about like developing a build, and I think that for me, because my general posture is to be a little more aggro, maybe like a 2-base timing attack might fit what I want to do better.
100% agree with you. I agree 100% on that. I was gonna recommend that to you too, but I mean, yeah, it's great. I'm glad you said that because I would prefer you do that too if you want to be aggressive. It's easier to do 2-base aggressive builds than it is to do what you're doing now, because what you're doing now is you have to have, like, honestly, okay, so here's what I would say. What you need to do right now for this to be effective: do exactly what I just said with the main Void Ray natural stalkers. And now you add it in with another step because you have another Void. You would add in another step to this with now having a natural Void Ray. You pull him to the main. You kill probes in the natural with a Void. You kill the front door with your stalkers. He comes to the natural. Run the Void away. Poke the door with your stalkers. He chases the Void away. Your Void in the main comes back to the main mineral line. You literally bounce him. Like it's like basically, imagine if you had like
so that's what happens here in a minute or two.
Yeah.
Except I don't attack the front. It's just the 2 rays.
Yeah, you just stab him in multiple ways where you don't ever want to fight him. You just stab him where he's not there, because you know you should not have the lead because you have more economy investment. So you don't just take a fight ever. You always shave him apart. And your Void is just chilling in the main. It's never even attacking the main. So that's already kind of making you miss all the opportunity here. There we go. Now it's doing it. You make him pull the mineral line. This Void killed like 2 probes right there because you killed 3 from earlier too. Now you're doing the natural. This is great. But the problem with this though, also the overcharged Void Ray does no bonus damage to probes. It just makes your Void slower. So don't ever overcharge. Yeah. Don't ever overcharge probes. It only works against armored units. So if you do it to buildings or something, that's fine too, but not probes. But like the stalker in the main and stalker in the natural, this is now nice. You're definitely doing some damage to him. The best way I can tell you to micro this in really fucking easy ways, really fast ways, if you don't already do this, you should start doing this. Highly recommend multiple control groups. So you can double tap 1-1-2-2, 1-1-2-2. Like you go 1-1, look at your Void in the main. His stalkers come over, you run away. 2-2, stalkers come over here, you run away. Go back to 1-1, go back in the main. Like you can rotate your camera really fast to do this. Because if you're literally just like dragging your screen left, dragging your screen right, dragging your screen left, that's gonna definitely fuck you over at doing this efficiently. I am happy though that neither one of your Voids has died. That's nice. That definitely helps you. But I don't think you've done enough damage to justify what you're doing though entirely. So far. Like it's not bad though. It's definitely not bad. You're definitely also macroing better than he is in terms of spending, but I think your generation could be a little bit better. And that comes from the, like, I'm glad you're building probes now and shit like that. It's great, but definitely want to keep that going. Like, be in the habit of alternating your tasks with, like, attack, check my nexus. Attack, check my nexus. Attack. Like, you should have checked your nexus. Like, remember how those adepts came into his base? The adepts that you walked into his base and then you tried to kill probes? If you didn't check your nexus like 3 times, and the whole duration of that, like, if you checked it 0, that's definitely something you need to improve on. You need to literally look at the bottom middle of the screen where your control tabs are. Like, if you could shift click all through your nexus, and they're all in the same control group, like number 5. If you hit number 5 and you just look at how many probes are being made through the white dots, like the white little boxes, that is what you should be looking at all the time when you go, kill a probe, check my nexus. Kill a probe, cool. Kill a probe, check my nexus. Like, you want to check it frequently, like maybe once every 5 to 10 seconds, just to make sure you're doing it. And like, because you're not going to, I guarantee you're not going to check it every 5 seconds, but always think in your mind, gotta check it, gotta check it, gotta check it. It should become just a habit that you generate for yourself. All right. From this point on, though, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to tell you what I think you should be doing here. But I want you to tell me what you think you should do from this point on in this game right now. What do you think you should do right now as to win the game?
So at this point, I've lost the void over there.
Sure.
I don't really have a lot of pressure on his base. So at this point, I know I'm up 1 base. So at this point, I should just make sure everything is saturated, start building more units than him, and try and max out faster.
I agree. And since you like to play aggressive, we're going to talk about aggressive tendencies too. Like, what's good aggressively. Never let him take a 3rd base and you win the game. Don't attack his natural anymore. Just don't let him take a 3rd. The reason why is because he has no SimCity at his 3rd. It's a naked nexus if he takes one. But if you attack his natural, he's got all these batteries and gateways and shit blocking you out. It's going to make your life a lot harder to engage, so on and so on. But if you just don't let him take a 3rd base, you look at your main base. It's already starting to mine out. He's having the same problem because you guys are both playing. Like, that's how StarCraft is. You both mine out about the same pace. So if you just don't let him take a 3rd, game is over. You win.
No more minerals in the field.
And then if you're gonna go Mass Stalker too, you are getting Blink, so that's good. And this is even further, like, the fact that you're going Blink even furthermore promotes, don't let him take a 3rd base. Because you could snipe the 3rd and blink away.
So now here, I think he just gets frustrated. He's like, oh, I got to go all in because I don't have a 3rd base.
100%, yeah. Yeah, the thing is, though, is you didn't force that to happen. He just felt the need to do it because he got impatient. I agree with what you said. But you could have forced him to go into that situation if you just purposely denied his 3rd base. There was no reason why he couldn't have taken his 3rd. He just chose not to do it. But if you actually had your stalkers running around with Blink, and every time he tried to take it, you just knock it out and blink away, that's amazing. And that's a great way. The way you can figure this out and do this is if you were to, like, let's say, for instance, with the style, how you opened up voids. The fact that your voids sat here defensively, I don't really agree with it. Like, I agreed that your natural and his natural and his main had a void poking it back and forth. But what if he had, like, another void poking the bottom of his main base? Just like having, again, multiple angles where you drag his units and you create openings in his mineral lines this way. But indirectly, it also scouts his base. And if you had a void on the south side of his main, you could have also scouted his 3rd repeatedly and been, and the void harassing his natural. That's top right. You scout that 3rd too. So, like, you could also, when your void is not attacking, you could just quickly check and see, did he start a 3rd yet? And if he did, that's when you can poke it with your stalkers. And your stalkers also, if he doesn't have a 3rd yet, you could always be poking the front door of his base, because that, again, drags him out so that you can then poke his probes more. Just using the voids is not great. Like, because it doesn't really put a lot of pressure on him. He could just split his stalkers 50-50 and never take damage. But if you poke the front of his base...
Are you okay with that if it's Oracle, though?
Yeah.
Like, early?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The Oracle's better than Void to do probe damage, 100%. Because the thing about it is an Oracle 2 shots a probe, and it, like, the rate of, like, if a Void's gonna kill 2 probes in 5 seconds, an Oracle will kill 4 of them. Like, an Oracle just kills probes faster, like, a lot faster. But the problem I have with you is, or with this game for you, the biggest one is you're not creating openings to do damage with. You're doing multi-prong aggression, but you're not actually creating openings. You did it the first time, but you didn't actually utilize it because your void sat there. But from that point on, you only try to create openings with voids and voids, which is not hard because it's not enough to force a reaction. You know what I mean? It's like you're trying to use a little tiny, like, wet noodle to create an opening when it's like he could just use 3 stalkers to defend that. And he already has 10 of them. Or 12 of them, so having 3 stalkers kill 1 void is not a big deal to him.
Yeah.
So, cool. Do you have any other questions about this game? We can jump into another one, but do you have any other questions about this game, what we just talked about?
No, no, I think it's good. I mean, I'll obviously watch this again
Okay.
because I'm sure there's stuff I missed, but yeah.
Sure. Okay. So, I mean, I do think if we, before we end this lesson, I don't want to end it right now. I want to definitely, like, obviously it's not even time to do it, but I want to, what I think I want to do for you to help you the most is I want to do what you asked for a second ago, which is I want to make you a build that's a 2-base all-in. And you can literally give me a unit comp that you want, but if I make you a build that is efficient and you just replicate it as well as you can, and I'll suit it to whatever you want to do with it, I'll explain through it what you should be doing with it and then go from there. Because if we watch on the replay, the way that one just went, I honestly think that if you want me to really help you, I literally saw a lot of problems in your build that I don't think you want to talk about as much, because it's going to be like, fuck, bro. I don't want to talk about my fucking macro. I don't have the best mechanics, but that is fucking you so bad. But if I make a build that suits what you want, I can tell you the stages of how to break it down. I think that'd help you the most. That's just my opinion, but you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I think that running through that would be good. And so, like, in terms of unit comps, I do generally like stalkers because
okay.
blink macro is not that hard, right? Don't like doing sentry guardian that much, and the only reason I say that is because usually I have Templars in there as well, and they take focus. So it's like select your units, tab G, right? And so, like, I'm not in the middle of a fight, like I'm just not that good yet.
Okay. And so do you want to go, what tech do you want to follow up with your stalkers then? Do you want to go Stargate again, or do you want to go like Robo? What are you feeling?
I would probably go Robo in that situation because I'm hoping that the game's going to end before we get into like tier 3 stuff.
Okay. So, all right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So here's what we'll do. Let's really quickly play a, here, I'm actually going to make a game really fast. Let's just do a quick 1v1, and then I'm going to walk you through the replay from my perspective. Like, you do whatever you want, okay? I'm going to do something to you that I'm going to have you I'm going to just walk you through afterwards, and then we'll go from there. And I'm going to do a 2-base all-in to you. That way, it still can turn into a third if you don't die to it, but it'll be a legit 2-base all-in. All right, I'll invite you to this game so I can make the map really fast.
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'll invite you back to party as well. Okay, are you ready?
Do you want me to do any specific
I want you to
build
do anything you want. Whatever, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
All right, good luck, man. This build's gonna be, it's gonna be a, I'm gonna harass the way you like to harass. I'm gonna follow it up with a 2-base all-in. That's what I'm doing to you. And I'm not gonna,
Okay.
but the thing is it's gonna feel like I'm gonna harass you a lot, but I'm really not. That's the trick here. It's not about making like, if I'm gonna do a robo all-in, it's not about making like 10 adepts. It's about making 2 and making it feel like it just never ends. It's about micro. But you'll see. We'll talk about it after. I don't want to talk anymore to you just because I don't want to distract you a lot. So good luck, and we'll talk after.
All right.
All right, I muted my mic so I don't have to distract him. Yeah, I think definitely this kind of a style will suit this dude's playstyle the most, because he definitely wants to play aggressive. But yeah, it was impossible to talk about last game because there was just a lot of flaws in the developing things. It's not even like a surprise. That's just how it is in Platinum for players when they play too aggressive. They always miss shit macro-wise. And then they want to know how to win certain situations when they're down where there should be by like 40 supply. So it's rough. I don't know how to explain that. But a 2-base all-in will definitely help this dude a lot more, for sure. Because if he gets good at this, like if suddenly he gets good at this build and suddenly he just like advances really fucking fast. And he crushes everybody with it. And then this actually, if you can do this build effectively too, it makes your macro better. Because the only way it works is if you have good macro. Like, you have to not fuck your macro up to be able to execute this kind of a build. Alright, I'm gonna scout him after core. Alright. Okay, so what we're looking for, it doesn't really matter. What I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna do a 2 adept opener, and I'm gonna go into like a couple stalkers behind it, like 4 stalkers behind it, and I'm gonna do a charge lot all in after that. So he expanded already. That's a fast expansion. I would say that's not good because he expanded before making units out of the gateway. It's opening him up to a lot more pressure. But he still could defend his natural though, if he just builds a pylon. But if he doesn't build a pylon, this is gonna be rough.
The firstborn shall persevere. Najakar. Where shall we march? Let your shall be reclaimed. Give us your command.
Like his units are gonna be super late.
Faith.
Now we're gonna phase into his base,
Fear.
and we're gonna kill probes.
We serve. Najakar. Combat awaits. Let none deter us. Come. It shall be done. I am the will of the hierarchy. Yes, Executor. We are.
Yep, he defended it.
Research completed.
So those adepts, you know, they did a little bit of damage. They killed, what, like 5 probes or something? 4 probes. Wasn't a ton of probe damage, but we did make him pull his mineral line off a couple times, which was nice as well. We slowed him down a bit. That's the whole point. But now the build is starting to develop into something more. And we can now rip off some probes off of our gases a little bit. Just a little bit. And now we can also make a bunch of gateways. Alright, now we're stopping probe production for a little while, so we can just do an all-in.
Thanks for the great content, Sensei.
Yo, thank you, Protocultures. Appreciate the support, man. Much love, dude. Alright, one more chrono boost on that charge upgrade, and that'll be our timing. Alright, and then we'll go into a prism. And chrono boost the charge upgrade as soon as it's ready, and we'll go. Or actually supply block, which is not ideal. Yeah, the prism, the important one though is the prism is on the way. Okay, let's go. Just chrono boost prism actually. We have charge. Alright, now that we got all of our shit.
New technology research.
We can go back into making probes again with, because our timing is already kind of set now, and we're going to add in, whatever they're called in a second here. We're going to add in some fucking Templar, dude, for Archon. Or if we don't kill him right away. So it'll be a transition. I'm not going to micro this too hard. I don't want to make this unrealistic. I just want to make him have the idea, right? Of just fuck over. Don't expect to kill here. Just expect to fuck over your opponent here.
Nice. So you need to charge a lot early. All right, that's basically it.
Yeah, man. This behind this too, we have you can now take a third with this, and while you take a third with this, it goes into it goes in Archons. So charge an Archon Immortal behind this. So
Okay.
all right.
There goes your probe.
Yeah, we could definitely break it down now and talk about it, and I'll run you through how it all kind of operates and shit like that.
Cool. Yeah.
I'll make the replay really fast for you. Okay. Okay. All right, so with this build, the way it kind of goes is you do open up double adept, and if you're and the trick to adepts, I'll kind of talk about it when we get closer to it though, but it's just making your opponent run around and killing probes on the way, but don't just stand there and sack the adepts. Because you want to, this build is about keeping your opponent defensive as long as possible. So keeping him busy as long as possible is what you want to be doing. And also we'll talk about the wall too. Notice how I built my wall right here, where I connected the one to the wall, and then I connected the gate to the other gate, but I left like a 2 pixel gap from the second gate to the other wall. That is exactly how I want you to wall your base.
Yep, got it. Okay.
And then we'll speed forward now, and we go. This is I'll pause it when you make your nexus because I want to talk about this really fast. I would say in general, never make your nexus this fast in PvP, and one of the reasons why this is happening to you is because you're not. I would say number one, you're not chrono boosting enough, and number two, you didn't make your second pylon. So what this did to you is you got supply blocked for a long time, and your stalkers are going to come out, or your adepts or whatever. This creates opportunity for if you're the adept guy versing someone who did what you did. It creates opportunity for you to do a lot of damage, because what this has now done to you is I can tell with my probe scout, you're never going to have units for a long time. Like I'm going to have zero pressure on me while I.
Yeah, I did it. And I was like, oh crap.
Yeah. So you can always open up 2 adepts with this, and then as you take 2 adepts, you take your natural. Like that. And then always just get in the habit of doing this. Notice how I just now left a probe sitting next to my gateway. Like in my main base. Literally what I do, and I would highly recommend this, okay? Get in the habit of putting this probe on a hotkey by itself, and literally make that like your panic hotkey. And if you don't use a hotkey, that's fine. Just put it there, and so you can have access to it. And what you do then, and notice how I rally my rally points of my gateways to the front of my natural, a little bit further out in the open, like it's like in the choke point, in front of my nexus. The reason why this is important, but now I'm also making stalkers with this, is because stalkers will aggro adepts. If you make adepts come to my base eventually, I know mine are going to be at your base first, but if you just decide to run by me, like as I get to your base, if you just made adepts and run to my base right away, what can happen is my adepts will reveal my stalkers will reveal your adepts as you get to my base. And if you do that, all I have to do now is take this probe that is in my doorway and build a shield battery. Its shield battery is better than a pylon because the shield battery has a longer build time, and neither building will die. But I build a shield battery literally in the door under the gateway, and it creates a full wall, and you cannot get your adepts in my base anymore, which means you can kill none of my probes in my main, and you cannot disrupt my mineral line. And it also makes your adepts locked in my natural longer, so my stalkers can kill you. This is required in PvP as you get higher.
Got it.
Yeah, because a lot of people still go adept openers, but if you don't do this, you just lose. So then as my adepts get to your base, all I do is I don't actually engage your natural. I know your natural's there, but I don't engage you because I'm trying to salvage as much HP on these adepts as I can. So I'm not going to hit your pylon. I'm not going to go hit your nexus. I'm not going to take damage from those stalkers. Now, if you came down and chased my adepts, that would be even better. But obviously you didn't, which is fine. That's better for you because now you're chasing the shade, which is what you should be doing. But now, as soon as I get in your main base, as soon as I phase in, I go in, and what I'm doing now with my micro is I go like, this is how my micro goes. My adepts are on 1, my nexus is on 5, and my gates are on 4. I go like this: 1, A move, probe. I click the probe. As soon as I click it and your stalkers are chasing me, I right click away from your stalkers, like further down, and then I really quickly go 5, probe, 4, stalker. I just make sure I'm making probe stalker as I move command after I kill the probe. And then the second I go back to my adepts, I now initiate a shade if I can, or I go back to the same sequence of going A click the probe. And then I move command, shade, or A click the probe. I do, maybe every 3 or 4 A moves, I check my nexus and my stalkers, just to make sure I'm always producing. So you have to do that. But in general, I'm just always running away from you and trying to cast my shade as soon as I can, and I'm going to send my shade to your natural because now you have 2 bases. And I'm just going to kill probe, run away. I don't just stand there and fight your stalkers, and I don't just stand there and kill your probes as your stalkers kill me. Because I want you to stay defensive as long as possible, and I want to shave pieces of your fucking probes off. Because the more you pull off the middle line, the more you get distracted, the more you don't macro. Say you're not making probes right now, this is what you want them to do. You want them to be distracted as fuck, and you want to make this last as long as possible.
So when I pull off there, like, if I'm on this side, right, should I just build a battery and keep your shades in so I can kill them?
I would say if the probes, or if you have the adepts in your base, don't battery to lock them inside. At that point, all you should do is just fucking get your stalkers on top of them, and if they're really close to the middle, you can pull the probes to like surround them. But yeah, it's already bad. Just know that there's no way to make that good. Like the adepts are gonna do fucking damage at that point. So yeah, building a battery is not gonna help you at that point. It's just gonna be
It's the contingency plan.
Yeah, because what I could do then to counter you if you were to, let's say, build a battery to lock me in, I could run to the south side of your base and I could shade to the top side of your base, and I could just keep repeating the process, and I would still kill probes.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great, because now if somebody does that to me, now I know what to do.
Yeah. And now, so I killed a decent amount of probes. You know, wasn't a ton. We killed 3. But if you look at the worker count now, you went Nexus way before I did. You went Nexus before you even made gateway units. So that was a greedy as fuck Nexus, but yet we still have a higher probe count, even though, and we only killed 3. So you had access to build more for longer, and we have more. And it's the reason why is because we distracted you for so long with those that you stopped macroing for a little bit, and it, you know, it made you fall behind. That's the idea of the adept, is you don't want to kill them with it. You just want to slow them down, because the more you can do that, the more you do slow them down, the further behind they fall to make their life harder when the all-in comes. And now what we're doing behind this is I go robo first, and then I'm making stalkers. I go up to 4 stalkers and I stop. So 4 stalkers is great, and you're good. It's just in case someone pokes you with like an air unit or whatever. It's good versatile defense. But I go robo first, and I chrono. Immortal, Prism. I then go Council second as soon as I can afford it after the robo, and I go charge. I probe all the way to 34 or 36 probes. Just know if you fuck this up and you hit 34, or if you hit 36, either one of these is fine, okay? They're both fine. The goal is, and I'll explain why it's fine in a second here. The goal of this build is you want to saturate your mineral line to about 12 or 14 probes, and you don't stop making probes the whole time you depth harass. That is very important. You have to do that to make this build effective. Because again, you're trying to slow him down, not yourself down. So you saturate your natural to 12 or 14 probes. If you get 12 probes, rip off 2 probes off each gas in your main base and put them on the natural mineral line. So now you have 1 out of 3 on both of your gases, and you're 16 out of 16 on both of your mineral lines. If you do 14, or sorry, if you do if you do 14 out of 16 instead, you can rip off 1 probe off each gas. I went the 14 way this time. Either way works. 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3 on your gases is both fine. The goal is you want to have 16 out of 16 on both your mineral lines, and you do want to rip off some of your probes off the gas. Because right now, as soon as you start chrono boosting out Immortals and your charge, it is critical to start making your gateways. Otherwise, your timing is going to be super fucking late. So now what I'm doing is I am making 4 more warp gates, and then I am also still chrono boosting charge and Immortals at the same time. And I'm going to make 2 Immortals first. And the reason why you make Immortals first and not the Prism first is in case you all in me during this process, I have a better chance to not die because I made Immortals first. They're more important to have right away to defend yourself. And this build will literally work versus 1 base or 2 base players. It does not matter how they open, really. I would say this, though. If you see they don't expand at all and they're just literally 1 basing you, add a battery into the build. Just like as soon as you make the robo, like add a battery to your natural. So because again, that's the chances of you getting all in are higher then. But yeah, it's the same shit. Right now you're making 4 gates, which is why you want to stop probe production at this point. This is why you don't want to make any more probes. It's really important. So you make 4 gateways here. And then, again, you're chronoing Immortals. You're chronoing out charge. You keep making Zealots the whole time, though. That is the priority. You add in gateways as you have enough money once you have made your Zealots. So you're stacking up units already, too. You're not just making the gates and neglecting your gateway production. Their current active gateway production. And then once you get to this point now where you have your Prism is going to get started, your gateways are all ready to go. As soon as you're in that moment where you're starting to make all of your Zealots and you know, all your production's good to go and your Prism's flying across the map, you can move out. And this is the tricky part, okay? I'll get to it right here. We're about there. So the Prism is started, all the gateways are coming up, and our charge is about done. We should be moving out like right now. And now as we move out, this is the tricky part. Just take your gases at your natural. We're going to do it in just a second. You take your gases at your natural. You can literally resaturate your gases in your main. And I want you to make probes again as you move, like as you start moving out, because now you can actually afford it because you've already invested all the money that you needed to into the gates, and you can afford to still produce zealots. But what you can do behind this is you can throw down a Templar Archives, and you can start going into Charge Lot Archon behind this, and you can do that while you take a third base, because Archons are cheap as fuck in minerals, so it pairs well with taking a third base, which is like the substitute for what the zealots cost. Because you can make zealots during the all-in, and as soon as you make the zealot, like, so you're not making Archons right now, okay? I want to make this clear. You make zealots throughout the whole all-in. You are all-in right now, but you have the ability to spend a little bit of extra money on going into gas in case you don't win the game right now, and you can rotate back into a third base with Archons. Really, really easy, because you'll actually develop a gas bank during this, and as you spend your money on Archon, it really barely spends your minerals, which allows you to afford a third base, which is why that makes sense. So as I move out, I take my gases at my natural, I resaturate my gases in the main, and I have the prism flying across the map now with the rest of my units. And now all I'm doing is, I'm making probes in the meantime. I'm just periodically going 5 DD, or 5 pro probe, 5 pro probe. But then I wait for my army to kind of regroup on you for a second here. I get it all together. If you move out like that, if your opponent ever moves out like this, just know charge lots are OP as fuck. They're so strong at this point in the game. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, I wasn't expecting to have the charge loss already. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, they're
As soon as I saw that.
They're insane. And they don't require any micro. They're so fucking good. But what you can...
So it strikes me that this is really strong, like, in PvP. How does this fare against, like, Terrans that are walled with siege tanks?
I would... so if you're playing against Terran, I would say you'd probably want to skip... The way you would alter it is you'd probably go for a Council first and do a Robo Facility second. And you would skip this whole front push. You wouldn't even do it. You would make zealots only. You would not make immortals either. You would get charge as fast as possible, because now if you go council first, it's even faster charge. You would go prism second out of the robo, because you get the robo after the council. Your prism would fly into like his main base and just make charge lots in the main base. And while the prism is flying across the map, if you have extra money to make zealots while you're heading over there, whatever zealots you made that can't fit in the prism, that are just excess, like let's say you have 12 zealots as you arrive to his base, and because you made zealots up to the point where you were building all your gateways out of your first 2 gates, and the prism has 4 of them, and the other, since you had 12, the other 8 can't fit inside the prism. Let's say those 8 hit the front door of his base, so it keeps him busy and occupied, while all the other prism, the 4 zealots in the prism, and now the whole new warpin of gateway units warp into the main base. And that build could be used with like 7 gates, just straight up 7 gate, and then you wouldn't even ever take your natural gas. And the way that build also works is you actually stop that build at like 32 probes, because what you do then is you mine 50 gas for the warp gate research. You would mine 50 gas for the stalker, because you still need 1 stalker to defend a reaper. You would then mine 100 gas for the council, 100 gas for the robo, and finally 100 gas for the charge. So in total, you'd have to kind of keep tabs on it. You would want to mine 400 gas in total for all of this combined. So you would just add it up to 400 gas. So if you spend 100 of it, now you got up to 300, and so on and so on. And and then you just stop making probes at 32, because 32 is perfect saturation of both mineral lines. And as soon as you're at 400 gas, you rip off all your gas probes and go pure minerals, and you just make zealots, 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 zealots. That's how it would go against Terran. The best.
Okay, makes sense.
But now, right now, I'm pushing you with a bunch of charge lots, and I'm gonna throw it out there and say, if I wanted to micro this properly, I would actually, right now, I would pull back as soon as I killed your Immortal and your Stalker, and I would let my Immortals and Stalkers of my own re-engage with you, and then I would re-engage with the Zealots. That is the proper way to micro this, and not just let my Zealots just roam fucking forward way ahead of everything else, and then die off before my other units get there. That's not great micro. So if I just recombine my army and collapse on you again, that would be better. I didn't do that this game though, because I don't want to make this too complicated. I don't want to make you have to like fuck everything up because you're trying to over micro shit. But that is the better way to micro. I do want to just say that, just to say that is a thing. So I just thought, but I do just let the zealots go. But what I really focus on now is I go, all right, because you see how the zealots are engaging you without my other units. I saw this and I was like, yeah, okay, who gives a fuck? Like it's whatever. But so if you do that too, it's just so it's not the biggest deal. But eventually, if this build takes you all the way to like Masters League, you will have to start paying attention to that, because your opponents will fuck you over for that. But now what I do, because I have you busy in the natural, is I do the same thing I was kind of telling you to do before with the voids and your stalkers, is I pulled you to the natural, and now I'm going to peel your main apart. Which is why I fly the prism down to your main base. I don't give a shit if you defend this fight, because the point I'm trying to do here is I mean, I am all-inning you, and I obviously want to win the game right now. But if I actually don't kill you, but I rip apart your economy, you're still dead. And all I have to do is just one wave of zealots in the main base. And all I do is I make them and I rally them into your mineral line. I greenbox them and I rally them in the mineral line, and I literally stop looking at them. I could now, if I wanted to, unphase the prism and go back to the natural and start reinforcing the natural again with my next round. And meanwhile, I just rally pointed my zealots I made in your main to your main, and now they're just going to ravage the mineral line all day. And this is now, even if you defended your natural, look at the probe count. Like, there's 0
Oh yeah,
chance
it's
you
over.
win. Yeah, you don't win now. That's impossible because I just fucking annihilated your economy, and it's still going. And behind this is when you see my gas now, because I've resaturated my gas. I now, if I don't win the game, and let's say you defend everything, but you take a lot of economy damage here, what I can do now is I can now take my third, and as I take my third, I have the available gas to start switching into Archons, easy peasy. And like I said before, Archons are just heavy gas, low mineral, so if you make them out of high Templars. So it's really affordable to do this. Like, I can bounce now between gas, full gas into Archons, and then full minerals into Zealots, while periodically adding on more Immortals here and there. But this build...
Awesome. I'm going to definitely try this out, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. This build is definitely... The key to this build... This is the ultimate key to this build, okay? Slow your opponent down as much as you can with minimal investment, which is the 2 Adepts, and don't slow yourself down. You have to really make sure that you can handle... Just like that's like a 3-step process. Shade as much as optimize the shade cooldown on the Adept as fast as you can. Do not fucking waste it. Don't just be like, oh, I could have shaded like 8 seconds ago and now I'll do it. You definitely need to shade as fast as possible repeatedly, because it makes your opponent have to chase you and chase you and chase you and chase you. That's number 1.
I like this a lot better because like I had tried out the 515 DT drops, but like if they have an observer, it's just over.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a very specialist build. It doesn't work. It works against like people who open up Council and people who open up like Stargate with like Phoenix or something. It does not work against robo builds. So it's if you know your opponent doesn't like robo builds, then it works against them. But in general, if you can just don't slow yourself down, that's the big thing. Just make sure you're always shading it as much as possible. Don't waste that cooldown. Make sure you're killing as many probes as possible every time you have a pass on the middle line, but don't overcommit to it. Always run, kill, shade. And then finally, do not stop macroing while you do that. Always rotate in, probe. Like if you miss anything, I would say it's not the end of the world if you miss a Stalker for like maybe 10 seconds. It's not great, but that's less impactful than if you miss a probe. Because if you miss a probe, this timing, like check this out. This is the last thing I'll say, and then this will be the good one for you to commit to memory. Look at the clock right now. We hit you at this game at 6 minutes, and I have 70 plus supply. If you can do this build again.
Good morning from Hong Kong. Man, you're a true global star.
Thank you for the sub, dude. Thank you. If you can hit this build at 6 minutes with 70 plus supply, and that's your build is like full on committed now. Like you're already like getting your prism across the map. You're getting ready to warp in. You're doing a good job. But if you ever realize if you lose the game in PvP and you're like, wait, what the fuck? Why did that fail so hard? Look at the clock. We started at 6 minutes, like at your base. Like it was when it all started. So if you're hitting someone's base by like 6:50, 7:15, just know go back to the drawing board and look at the replay again and be like, where am I fucking up? Like why is it so late? Because maybe you're like not chronoing properly. Maybe you're taking your robo way too late. Whatever, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So 6 minutes is your checkpoint. Okay. And then yeah, that's it, man. This build will definitely help you a lot in the way you like to play, I think.
Yeah. Looks fun. Can't wait to try this.
Hell yeah, man. Do you have any other questions about anything before we wrap up?
So I think you answered all the ones, because one of the ones was like, what's your equivalent to like inject creep? But it sounds like the 1, 3, 4, right? If you're doing adept attack, gateway, probes.
Yeah, it is.
So
yep.
Got it. And then the other question I had is, what's the most effective if like it's going a little bit long and I've got like planetaries, like it's Terran, right? I lose a ton of crap to that. Like, what's the most efficient way to take care of that?
The way I like to deal with Terran, if the game can't end, is upgrade weapon upgrades for air and just literally just go Sky Toss. Even for me at GM, like we're talking like if I play a Terran who's like 5300, it still works even then. So it's gonna guaranteed work for Platinum, Diamond, Masters. You just switch into carrier, and it's not even a huge transition. We're talking like 3 Stargates, okay? Like 3, maybe 4 Stargates. And this is after you like are already like maxing out, and you're like, fuck, okay, this guy's like split mapping me. He won't die. Just start chronoing out weapon upgrades for air and carriers. As you start to lose bits of your army, replace with carrier. Lose bits of your army, replace with carrier. And then
So if you see that, you're like, okay, this is gonna be kind of a long game because I don't have to max and go into air.
Yeah, no, I think if you just max and go air and you actually get to a point where you have a mothership and you have like 15 carrier, you auto win. It's going to be very hard for the Terran to deal with. Especially if he's not responding to you in the proper way of doing like mass BCs or some shit, and instead when you have air, he still has like, let's say, like fucking tanks and like Hellions and Thors, or he has like Marine Medevac, Viking or something like that. You're gonna annihilate him. Because carriers is like godlike army in this game if you have good upgrades on it. So that's gonna definitely just destroy Terran.
Makes sense. All right. Excellent.
All right, man.
That's good. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Thank you for doing a coaching lesson, and best of luck, man.
Thank you. Take care, dude.
All right, take it easy. All right, guys. That has been a coaching lesson. That was a plat level coaching lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it made sense. I definitely, I always try to cater to how people want to be coached. I try not to like, if you want to focus on certain things, I'll definitely try to help you as much as I can. And yeah, I think that one went all right. I think it started off a little bumpy, but it went all right towards the end. I feel like he got something out of it that will definitely help him a lot. That build is definitely suited towards how he likes to play that we made at the end. So, guys, thank you for watching. I hope this helps you as well, especially if you're an aggressive style player. And just a disclaimer, I'll throw it out there and say, I do think this build could be applied to someone in Platinum that is going to eventually be in Diamond, but I really do think that this build I just showed him is more of a Diamond-focused build. That is a fact. I've always said shit like that, and I even kind of said it a few times throughout this lesson. So just know, if you are Platinum and you're looking for the most efficient way to improve at the game, the guy I just coached, he specifically wants to, focus on aggressive, fun, micro-based builds. But if you're looking for the most efficient way and your whole goal is legit just speedy improvement at how do I get better at StarCraft, I would say probably just focus on macro-focused builds until you're Diamond. And then once you're Diamond, probably focus on builds more like this that are more multitasky focused, because it's really hard to handle builds like this before you have a solid macro foundation. Anyways, thank you for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one. Take it easy. Good luck and much love. And yeah, see you guys. Peace. Bye.